Many years I used to sit in my living room with my parents. Well, actually, they weren't really my parents. It was a offshoot of my real family that had raised me, even though they never told me that I wasn't actually theirs. I found out through many different people that I was another offshoot of their family, which is still a mystery to me, and that's why I probably became a psychic, because my own life was such a mystery. Well, at one point I was in the garage business for 18 years with what was supposed to be my father and brother, and a car rear-ended me while I was at a red light in a car, and it totaled out my car and broke my neck, and I was in a hospital for a couple of weeks. And my supposed father came to me and told me he didn't think I can work anymore and that he was going to give me the business. And I asked him where's the money he was putting away from me all these years, and he informed me that it was his money. Well, he was one of those people who always confuse kindness with stupidity. And he's the type that didn't really believe in divine providence, and that life has its own reciprocity, particularly divine reciprocity. I always felt that I was dropped on the wrong doorstep because the whole family was like that. They were like hollow people. But that's neither here nor there. He complained when he saw me throwing cards on a table, and I would do this customarily for hours, and that helped to really build my psychic ability. And after a while, I amused myself. It was like watching a movie. And one day after convalescing, I showed up at Menlo Park, New Jersey, at a mall, and I had been convalescing for 2 years at this point. And I saw that they had a psychic fair, and I went to the front desk, and this gentleman called Vinny said that I would have to see Shirley in the morning, who I later found out was his wife. And I didn't know the purpose, so 9 o'clock the next morning I had showed up to see this Shirley, and she was a very thin, short, blonde-headed lady with a lot of jewelry, and this was an outfit where they had 3 or 4 psychic fairs going in even different states at different times. And I said I just wanted to do this like a special appearance or something like that. So I sat there in the morning, and even though it was very early, there were 2 girls in front of me waiting to see Shirley. And Shirley sat down at a table, and this very thin, tall lady with beads and bracelets and all the rest of the paraphernalia that most female readers wore at the time. They almost looked gypsy-like. Proceeded to Shirley's table and took out these tarot cards out of a tote bag. And she had Shirley shuffle the cards, which was customary with most readers, and she put down the cards. And after a while, I noticed that Shirley was shaking her head in the negative, and meanwhile, the 2 psychics behind me were discussing how long this one would last. Well, after a few minutes, she seemed to have cursed Shirley out, and away she went. And then there was this heavyset lady with a skirt on and beads and bracelets, and she proceeded at Vinny's request to go sit down with Shirley. And after a short while, Shirley was again shaking her head, and I could see this heavy lady sweating from the back of her neck, and it's actually called flop sweat. This is something which comedians are known to get when they start telling jokes and they go in front of an audience and their jokes aren't going over very well. They call it flop sweat. Well, this was the first time I witnessed flop sweat. And then after a short while, she was gone, and Vinny motioned to me to proceed to Shirley's table. Meanwhile, the two psychics in the back were discussing on how long I would last with Shirley. So what had happened was I wound up sitting there and just doing my readings. I had my magnifying glass, my light. I was looking at a palm. I had my Gypsy Witch cards, which the other psychics didn't like. They said that I gave a bad image to the psychic world, even though they used Rider-Waite cards, which showed a man falling out of a lightning-strike castle, and another card would show a skeleton on a horse mowing down people. My cards were a bad image. Well, after a while, Vinny appeared at the table, and he says, look, it's been a half hour. I didn't even realize that a half hour had gone by. And he said, what's the problem? She said, he's totally accurate, and he doesn't ask any questions. So she asked me if I would show up tomorrow morning, and she would have a table for me with my name. And I said I would. When magicians or psychics go, well, particularly psychics, magicians actually have a script, but when psychics go out in front of an audience, comedians and singers have a script, their jokes or their song is. And when I would go out in front of an audience, there is no script. Right from the beginning, everything's cold turkey. I remember I did a special appearance, and they wanted me to wear a turban, and they wanted somebody that could actually talk and discuss psychic work without looking like a flake. And I said I wouldn't wear a turban, and they all begged me, so I decided to wear a turban for the good of the show. And I sat there with a New York accent wearing a turban. And at the same show, they had like this Triller-like thing with what looked like a monkey in ice. And they would charge people 50 cents to walk through this trailer and to observe this monkey in ice. And they called it the Abominable Snowman. And they asked me what I thought about it. And I said that I thought it was not real. And they said, well, there's two of them. They said, we lost track of which is the real one and which is the copy. But then they got a guy called Barry, who was a psychic that used to read at the Russian Tea Room, and he said he thought it was real. And when the article came out in the newspaper, the article said that psychic tries to reach monster. So I guess we were on the verge of showbiz. Well, I'll continue with two more segments of this.